Welcome to Title Talks, the show where you can spend some time with the most influential people in the title industry while they share their insight on everything from making your operation more efficient to the latest technology, sales and marketing strategies, hot topics, and more. Take a minute to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Title Talks is a production of PropLogix. We want to be your preferred vendor partner for title production tasks. Our job is to win you back time that you can then spend with your customers, maybe taking a real lunch break, or getting new business. We care about your success, which is why we make this podcast. Be sure to check out all our time-saving services by heading to proplogix.com/services. Now to today's episode. The benefits of using video for your title business are too many to count. Video gives you the chance to scale your outreach, connect with your audience, and humanize your brand. It's one of my all-time favorite topics, and I'm so happy to have Bowe Digital's Wayne Stanley join me to talk about why you need to be doing video for your business and how to get started. Spoiler alert, it's not as hard as you think. I'm Lindsay Gordon, and this is Title Talks. Welcome to Title Talks, back to Title Talks. We're having you on again. We're super excited to talk today about video marketing and honestly, not even just necessarily marketing, just essentially using video in your organization.
Right. I appreciate you guys having me back, and this is a topic that I really love, so I'm eager to get into it.
Yeah, me too. I have done video production in the past and done a lot of video marketing with PropLogix, and now we do the podcast, and there's a video element there, so it's something I'm really invested in as well. So I'm super excited to bring this to our listeners because I feel like it's an overwhelming topic. It feels like you throw that technical element and it becomes really scary to people. And so I think we're going to demystify that and show people that it doesn't have to be scary and it can be really effective in your business.
Exactly. And we're not going to make you do TikTok dances in the parking lot either.
It doesn't have to be about that. No,
Yeah.
Definitely not. It can if
Right.
you want. If that's your
Exactly.
vibe, if that's, your brand, then totally. But yeah, no one has to do TikTok dances. So Wayne, I know a lot of our listeners, you're well known in the title industry. I know a lot of our listeners know you or at least recognize your name. But for anyone who may not, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Of course. I am the owner of Bowe Digital. We are a marketing firm specializing in title and real estate. I started Bowe Digital in 2017 after working for about 5 years at the American Land Title Association. So if you're familiar with my name, I used to help run the Title Action Network and the homeowner outreach program over at Alta. And so that may be where we've crossed paths. But for the last 7 years now, which is crazy to think about, I have owned Bowe Digital. We've got a couple other businesses that are out there helping title folks too, like Growth House and Title Success. But, we love to help title companies especially really differentiate and figure out how to make a name for themselves in their community. And one of the ways that that's changed the most in the last few years is definitely more video. That's what we're seeing, and why I'm excited for this topic.
Yeah. So why do you think video is such an important vehicle for communicating with prospects and customers? Like, what's so good and effective about video?
I think because even as digital as we are now, we're all on our phones all the time and we're used to this. The human connection side of it is still deeper for people and it's more connecting than anything else. And so, if you were going to send a text-based email or even a graphic-based email, it's not as powerful as when someone gets a video from you, or the same on social media. It's not as connecting to see a post or an article or a graphic versus a video of someone. And there are a lot of trends there where the way we consume video is changing, and we can definitely get into that. The whole lack of audio. So many people that watch videos that aren't listening to anything blows my elder millennial mind. But that's a whole other thing. But I think that in general, it's the connection piece, and it's also just the ease of use. It's a lot. it's somehow more active and more passive all at the same time. People can press play and do other things. They can feel more connected to you and feel like they can cut through. They don't have to read through to find the most important parts. They can speed through the recording if they want, all of that kind of stuff. But by and large, it's the most engaging form of marketing that most businesses can do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think another thing that I feel like is important is retention too. Like video messages via video tend to be retained longer or more effectively, and also clarity of message. It's a lot easier to understand tone when someone's speaking versus like an email or something along those lines. And when you talk about using video as a like a one-to-one kind of tool as well, not just like a one-to-many. So.
Right, especially when you're thinking about like the relationships that you're trying to create with your sales and your marketing efforts, being connected to someone, when you're asking someone for their business, and it comes across so much more sincere when it's, like you were saying, the tone, and you can actually hear it. But it can be a great tool for internal communication, even if you're a team of 3 or 300. It can be really helpful because, like you said, people read into emotion and all of that all the time. And recently I was at Alta Springboard, and there was a speaker there talking about how everyone comes to you with an iceberg in their life, and that you're only seeing what's on top, but underneath they have belief systems and family issues, and not just the proverbial like what's going on in their life right now, but stuff that's happened for their whole lifetime. And you have to think about that. And so connecting with them through video is super helpful. And that's how I talk to our team. We're fully remote, and that's how we communicate internally. And I think that can be really helpful for folks that, especially if you ever feel like, I don't know how this gets lost in translation sometimes. I think video is probably a really helpful tool that you can start using.
Yeah, absolutely. So so many of us are used to using video in our day-to-day lives, like most of us are on social media where you're watching like Reels, or maybe you're on TikTok, and like, so we're so used to consuming, and we FaceTime with like grandkids or family, but when it comes to business, it suddenly feels really scary and inaccessible. Why do you think that's the case?
I think that people get very nervous that they're going to say or do the wrong thing. I think that sometimes when we think about our marketing for businesses, we sometimes think about our own experience. And I think that you can't do that because, like you said, I think there are probably people listening right now where you said we're used to video in our personal lives. There are probably people listening that are like, I'm not used to video in my personal life. I don't watch video. One of the stats that I like to share when talking about this is that the average adult in the U.S. has over 80 apps on their phone at any given point, and at least 10 of those are streaming apps. And so, aside from creating video or anything like that, just the video they're consuming from Apple, HBO, Netflix, all of that, Instagram, Facebook, even if that's not you, it is likely that that is your customer. And so you have to think about it that way. And I think sometimes when you separate that of like, yes, I'm not comfortable with it, or I don't operate this way in my personal life, but if my customers do, then I need to do that for my business. And so I think that's one. I think another one that people get really hung up on and sometimes just give up with video is because they feel like they have to re-record all the time. The constant re-recording. And I don't know, I tell all of our customers when we do trainings that that's just like a human thing, but it's a very strange thing because if you and I were doing this on stage together and having a conversation in front of a live audience, if one of us flubbed a word, if I said fake book instead of Facebook on accident or something, I wouldn't say, whoa, let me redo that really quickly. But somehow if we put a camera in front of us, we would. People want to re-record and have it be absolutely perfect. And there's part of that connection I was talking about is that there's an authenticity to video that people crave and like. And I think that if you can be less fearful of the being perfect, your videos are going to come across even more authentic to you, but also they're going to seem way easier to do because you don't have that pressure of having to do it perfectly. And I tell folks all the time, if you want to get over that habit of re-recording, you should go live more often. Go live on Instagram or LinkedIn and then you're forced to just let it go because you're live and it's all happening. But I think that's one of the biggest reasons for people. And I think the third thing that I'll say really quickly is just that the biggest excuse that I hear is I don't like the way that I look, I don't like the way that I sound. And I think with your digital marketing, it's your digital doormat, and if I came into your office, you wouldn't say, "Oh, I don't like the shirt I have on today."
Don't look at me.
Yeah. Right, I didn't do my hair right, so turn him away.
Yeah.
I know he wants to meet, but have him go away. You wouldn't do that. And so don't let that be a hindrance to you either. And if it's not you on camera, find someone who is comfortable on camera.
Yeah, and the other thing is it's like the more you do it, the more comfortable you get. Yeah, I totally understand that because we do things, internally, and I'll have people come back to me and be like, yeah, I recorded it like 12 times. It took me like 2 hours, and it's a huge time suck. So it feels like, why would I want to do that again? Like it just takes forever. And so it's really getting over that hump of kind of like throwing, your ego to the wind and saying, I'm doing this. I'm coming from a place that I'm here to help people. I'm here to connect with people, and I have something valuable to share.
Right, exactly. And that's all people want. That's all. They're not expecting, Steven Spielberg quality productions from you. If you've gone from no video to one a month or something like that, that's just not the expectation.
So I'm really curious to know, what are some ways that you see title companies using videos successfully?
Yeah, everybody does it a little differently, and I think that's the great thing for people is that you really should make it work for you. And I know that, if you're someone that's listening to this and you're like, I've got to convince leadership, ownership, my boss, whomever, that this is worthwhile, like Lindsay said, saying that you just recorded one video and it took 2 hours because it took 12 times probably isn't going to help the cause. But, think about what is the easiest content for your team to create to start with. So especially, and you may have just said, I don't have a team, I'm a team of one. What do you nerd out on most for your company? What are you most interested in? Because that's the easiest. And I hear this a lot from leaders that want to be more active on LinkedIn, especially with video. And they're like, I just don't know what I would say. And I'm always like, what part of the business do you find the easiest? Do you like talking about? If someone dropped out of a conference tomorrow and they asked you to go and speak, what would you say? Hey, I could do this with no preparation. That's the kind of stuff that you can get started with on video. But people are doing a lot of really clever things. I think some of the more traditional type videos is there are a lot of like meet our team style videos. But people are starting to have more fun with it. And it's less about, because the biggest differentiator for most title companies is your team. But a lot of people that are doing videos, 3 and 4 years ago, they were doing the, hey, this is our title processor and this is what that means and this is what they do every day. And it's super important work, but it's not necessarily that interesting to someone that's not in your office. But getting them to talk about what are they binging on Netflix? What concert do they go to? What kind of dog do they have? The human connection piece, adding that kind of stuff can be super, super helpful. And then I think that we also see a lot of video these days of trying to connect for their real estate agent customers. And so if you can share, I say all the time that there is so much content created in the industry that you don't have to come up with an original thought. You can be a thought leader and share things with people. And so like PropLogix, our company, all of the underwriters, most of the software production companies, they all have ebooks and blogs and video series and stuff. And so find something from there, and if you like it, you can then say like, hey, I was just watching this video from Lindsay at PropLogix the other day, and she said this, and I thought that was really important and could be helpful for your business in this way. And then it's there, and you don't have to feel like you've created it yourself. And then I think a third bucket is there's just a lot of like community-driven content. Some easy stuff, like I always say interviews are the easiest videos to do because you don't have to create the content. You just come up with some questions and have the conversation. But that could be, like if you're trying to grow in commercial, maybe they're doing more videos with the Economic Development Alliance and folks that are doing more on the commercial side and the development side in those communities. Some are doing simple, fun things like, hey, meet our neighbors. We've been on the courthouse square for 100 years. Let's talk really quick to the ice cream shop and the tax accountant and whatever else. And just having videos that aren't all sales for title all the time. I think that's the mistake that some make too much, is it's like, here's our app, here's our website, here's our location, what to bring to closing, which is all really important. But I think mixing in some of that lighter hearted stuff that's more connecting for people is where we see the most success right now.
How do you feel about like when you're creating video content as the title company? Like, do you think it should be more geared towards the real estate agent, the referring agent, or the home buyer? Like, do you think there's like a split there? Like, where do you think, if I could only really, kind of do a few at a time, where should I kind of invest my efforts?
I think that everybody knows their market and what's going to work best for them. And I think it sort of depends on what their goals are. But in general, I would say that most of what title companies are doing right now would probably go toward the real estate agent. Or I think depending on who you're going after, if you're doing more on LinkedIn, you could go after investor business or lender business for sure. But I think a lot on Facebook and Instagram would definitely be geared toward the real estate agent. But again, only if you're offering them things that is going to enhance their life in some way, make their life better, make their work stronger, make them stand out more, whatever that may be. And some title agents are always worried about that. Like, I don't want to tell them how to do their job. You're not telling them how to do their job. You're just offering tips, tricks, and ideas in the same way that, this podcast is doing that for your business. You're not saying that I'm an expert in this or that you should use my title company to help you, work with this app on your phone or something, but you're a connector and you're showing that you're invested in their success as your business partner. I think though that as things start to change in the next several months with what's happening with our real estate agent friends and all of that, with commissions and everything else, I think doing more direct to consumer advertising will be beneficial and probably more welcomed by your real estate agents, explaining the process more. And when rates do move, there are going to be a lot of people that have either never been in the market or have maybe been in the market only once in the past. And that re-education, the folks that they expect to come into the market are people that haven't been in the market since before the pandemic. And when we think about all that's changed during that education that's going to be needed for whatever happens, whenever it happens, is going to be a lot. And so having a plan for some of that, I think, will be helpful too.
Yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with Wistia. They are a video hosting platform, but they do like a state of video every year, which it just came out, which is like perfect timing for this. But they surveyed businesses, across all industries, and some of the ways that people are using videos most frequently are product videos, which obviously it's not necessarily, but it's kind of more like how things work and how like process driven. And then more educational videos is like the second highest one. And then webinars and live events are another one. Those are the top three right now. And then social media falls under that. So just some ideas, some thoughts about how other companies are utilizing video. Do you feel like you see people doing webinars or live events using video?
Yeah, I saw a crazy stat it wasn't from Wistia, it was from HubSpot, about how the e-learning boom by 2026 will be a $450 billion industry because of what's happening. And it's not just schools and that sort of thing, but it's still one of the most popular, like you were just saying, styles of content. I think a lot of agents locally, a lot of title agents locally here, we're tired of Zooms. We don't want to do, virtual trainings. We like to be together on all of that. And again, I would encourage you to not let the squeakiest wheel dictate what you do, because that may be true for the agents that want to come in person and sit in your session, but are you potentially missing out on business because you're not also offering it as a live streamed option? Or recording it for the people that can't make it in person that day to still watch it afterwards. I think that even if you're hearing that from your customers, I would really encourage you to at least try to do some of those where you can cross-post them, where you can record them for a library that your customers can access later or something like that, because you might be surprised at what business you're missing just because the ones that want to be there in person are the first ones to sign up and they sit up front each time.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I'm going to give up our secret, but the reason that we do a podcast is, well, one is always interview format because it makes it a lot easier on us. We do create a lot of content, but it's kind of like, we're going to invite the expert on this topic. We're going to bring them in. We're going to ask them questions on behalf of the audience, and then we're going to be able to share it. So, and we've talked a little bit about like, what if we added a live component, to our podcast as well as another way to kind of promote it and, get more eyes on it. But then the best thing about it for us is that we're then able to take the content that we've made and then like clip it up into little bits and like nice nuggets that promote the podcast, get people to go and listen to it, but just it's just good content for like our social media channel. So right. It's basically, how can we make the most of all of the efforts that we're making? And I think with a live event like that, if you're not at least recording it or, doing a stream option, you're really you're putting all that effort in and not really getting as much as you can get out of it, because you've already put the content together. You've already had the speaker there. Done the presentation. And, so it's like, there's just a lot that you can, I don't want to necessarily say recycle, but repurpose and really get more mileage out of, especially when you don't have resources to be creating a bunch of stuff all the time.
Exactly. People they're always like, well, I don't know what we would say. I don't know what we would put in our content. I'd say, like, let's figure out what you've already got going on. And maybe you only do trainings once a quarter or less. That's still, like you were saying, if it's an hour-long class, there are probably several different nuggets that you could cut up from a video recording to be able to use otherwise. And I think that that's really, really helpful to a lot of folks, because we don't always think about the attention spans of people. Mm-hmm. And even if they went to the class in person last year, you can recycle stuff that, as long as the content is still accurate from years ago, that's still helpful to them. So if you have any of that stuff, I think that that's definitely a very helpful and smart thing to do. And we do the same thing. We try to record everything possible so that we can put that in different elements for us, and we do the same thing for our customers. Because another, a secret for us this year has also been not only capturing that and recycling it, like you were saying, Lindsay, but also repackaging it for individual real estate teams to make it feel even more personalized. So, hey, this recording for the Stanley Remax team in Tennessee, and this recording we did especially for the Keller Williams group in South Carolina, because they feel like even more so, oh, they did this for us, and all we did, was redesign a header in Canva or something like that, but they feel like it's even more for them. And when you've got that kind of like almost flywheel approach of how are we engaging people and trying to get them into what we're doing, that can be really successful for you without a lot of effort.
Yeah, I love that idea. It's like we already have this, kind of package ready to go, and we're just kind of like changing the skin of it so that it feels like it's made custom for them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. So, there's a lot of gear. Let's talk a little bit about gear that you could be using, but like in your opinion, like what do you think is the most essential gear that you need to just get started in video?
Yeah, I'm a gear simplist, or purist maybe. I don't think that, I always I feel bad because sometimes I'll do talks on this and somebody will email me and say, well, I just bought my Canon and we just like turned one of our supply closets into a studio and all of this. And I'm like, that's a lot of investment for going from zero video to still zero video.
Yeah. Just buying it doesn't make the content.
I'm like, oh, that makes me nervous for you. But I think that in general, I always say if you have a phone that has been built in the last 5 or so years, the camera on it is all you need to get started. the camera on that phone is enough. I think that it is worth the investment of wireless lavalier mics that you can, it plugs into the bottom of your phone and then it Bluetooths to the wireless lavalier. Most of the time they're on sale on Amazon for like $20 and you'll get 2 lavaliers, and that's perfect for what you need, because sound is super important. And so is lighting. I always say some people start video and they sort of look like, what's the meme? Evil Kermit, where Kermit has like the hood
in
on
the
his
shadowy,
head,
yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, I know that you don't sit in the dark in your house, so why did you think that this video would look normal? I always say, like, before I even press play, I just assume it's like a wire fraud video or something, because it looks sort of scary. But lighting is important, just as sound is important. So a ring light is also like $20 on Amazon. Getting a good one that you can mount your phone in the middle of can be super helpful. And for the most part, for me, that's all you need to get started. Your phone, the light, and the mic is all you really need. I think that there are so many apps that allow you to do, this isn't necessarily gear, but I think kind of tangential to that is the editing tools. And there are lots of free tools to be able to do that. Even just clipping it on your phone to start with can be super simple. So I also don't, think when you're thinking about the investment of this, buying hundreds of dollars worth of software or products and stuff is not needed either. So as far as gear goes, like I said, it's great to be enthusiastic, but I think until you can commit to it, like any other habit in your life, I wouldn't, go putting soundproofing in your closets or anything like that until you've done a few months of work on the video side of things.
Yeah, for sure. There's stuff like CapCut is a free mobile app that people use. They also have a desktop version that's pretty simple. Riverside, which is what we use it to record remote video just because it's so easy. It like records from both sides. And then there's like an editing option too, and you can do live streams from it. You can like hook it up to your YouTube or your Instagram. There's like a lot of it's actually pretty inexpensive. It's like $30 a month. So they have editing built into it. You can generate captions. There's a lot that you can do. You don't have to buy a subscription to something, and you don't have to, there are a lot of free things that you can use. But I totally agree. It's like, start a regular habit of making videos and then decide bit by bit what you want to improve overall. So,
and I think the other thing that I say a lot for video is just that, when you're making your first few, it's unlikely that you're going to go viral. That's going to be your team and your family that sees it first, and maybe a few customers, but it all depends on how you promote it. So like everything else we were talking about, if you're trying to build the muscle and just get used to it, record videos of your kid or your pet or the espresso machine or the, anything, and then get used to cutting it and editing it and get used to the light and all of that so that you are more comfortable, and don't worry about if it's not the perfect edit right away, because that's not the part people are going to remember. They aren't. Unless you do something that's just really out there, they're not going to remember that it wasn't quite as polished as what you want. And most even, influencers and stuff will say it's usually the video that you put the least amount of time into. It's the one that's like, let's just do this really quick. Who knows? That's probably going to get the most play, because that's just how we operate in terms of how people consume video on the internet. I don't know if you've experienced that too, Lindsay, but it's usually, for me, it's the silly stuff or the stuff where I'm like, no one's going to care, but let's do this anyway. And then it ends up going wild.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's always a surprise, like what performs really well. And it's like, oh, this is gonna, it's just like, it's gonna hit that note. It's either it's like super relevant, or you've like hopped on a trend and done something that no one's done yet. Or, it's like, or it's like really answering a question that a lot of people have. Like, it's just something about hitting a nerve, and you cannot necessarily plan for that happening. It's just like the right amount of timing and like relevance, I think.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I'm trying to practice what I preach, and so I'm trying to create more on TikTok. For the most part, I'm just a lurker on TikTok, but I'm trying to create more, and I'm trying to lead by example for our team and for our customers. And I offer tips and stuff, and I've done some of the trends and everything. And I taught a class for our local Chamber of Commerce on video recently, and I was trying to show that, look, you can do a TikTok trend in 30 seconds. And we did one, and it was a mess, and it wasn't perfect. It has thousands more views than any other video I've done so far. And that's just a perfect example of, like, I put lots of thought into everything else we had done on there, and that 30-second worth of effort is performing better than anything else.
I think we kind of talked a little bit about it just now, but like, we know what's good about video, but like, what do you think makes a video good?
What makes a video good? I think that there are probably two things. Number one, don't waste people's time. I think that it's if you are at all a consumer of video on any of the apps these days, you know that there are some that drag you in, and then you're like, wait, I don't actually get to know what's happening or anything like that.
It's so frustrating.
What was the point of this?
Yeah.
Like, those are really frustrating, and I see sometimes people trying to tiptoe into that because it does get engagement, but it's not going to like build a following for you. So I think make sure it's worth people's time. I think that for some reason, some people set out and say, like, we want it to be a 2-minute video or 90 seconds. And I'm always like, why? Who said that this should be the length? And so I think most videos of what you're sharing should be short and sweet. There are some different tips and tricks and rules on that may not necessarily be true all the time, but especially when you're starting, like, get to the point, get in and get out. And then I think a lot of great videos these days also have to have captions. You've got to have captions on them because it's some crazy stat. Like, for people under 35, like 60% of them are watching videos with no audio. And so worrying about what you're saying doesn't necessarily matter because they're watching it for the captions. And so I think that's really important. And then the last thing that I would say for like a good video would be to consistently mix up the style. Don't always have it be one person in their office sitting there or behind I know title companies love to sit behind like a step and repeat that they have or something like that. And the branding is cool and important, but maybe don't always. That's the biggest way for people's brain as they're scrolling. They're like, oh, I've probably seen that before because they're used to that background. So really try to mix it up. And I think sometimes when you're in the most unique spaces, that can be really engaging for people. So don't be afraid to do something from... I know Bomb always shows some of their most successful videos are real estate agents at the drive-thru saying like, hey, I'm grabbing lunch really quick, but I'll get to you as soon as I get to the office. Even simple stuff like that sometimes can be super helpful. So I think that would round out my best of videos for sure.
Love it. This is a question that I feel like and people don't really ask, but like, what are your thoughts on scripted versus unscripted? Do you feel like scripting is important, or do you feel like it isn't necessary?
Man, I know some people want a script. I think a script is the easiest way to fall into that. I've got to re-record it. Where they feel like I want to say this. I think if you're going to do a script, I would really encourage you to maybe do just 2 lines at a time, because I say when we're doing training with our customers, I'm always like, you don't want to look like a hostage. And unfortunately, a lot of people that are reading from a script, it kind of feels like there's somebody behind the camera, like, read the script right now. And you don't want it to feel that way. So you don't want it to feel forced or anything like that. Sometimes you have very specific things that you want to say, and that's fine. I think bullet points are probably better. So if you're a script person trying to move toward bullet points can usually be helpful. But again, even with bullet points, breaking it up to only doing a couple at a time, taking a breath, because you can edit that out. As long as you've got the blank space, you can quickly cut that out of your video, and it will all seem like you've put it together just the same as giving it all at once, but it will feel less like you're just reading to them from this script. And then I think the other thing that I would say, if you are a script person, is you've really got to think about old school speech tactics. And, Bill Clinton was one that, aside from like your politics, that really did a good job of every time he made a different point when he was talking, he sort of shifted direction, and he would make sure that he shifted where his speech was going and that sort of thing. He and lots of other clergy and things like that, they do a lot of making sure that they adjust their volume so that when they get serious and they want you to listen more, they get a little more serious in their tone. It comes down a little bit, and we say, this is really important, and I want you to think about this for a second. And then they rev it back up, and they want you to know that this is what we're going to do, and this is what we're going to talk about. So I think like trying to think about that for yourself. If you're going to do a speech and be monotone, you might as well not do the script. But in general, I think it's best to just go off the cuff and just be honest and try to, if you know you're going to do a video and you need to hit these 2 points, just try to do that, because I think that's what's going to come across most authentic.
Yeah. No, that's perfect. That's awesome. So are there any other helpful tips or resources that Bowe has? How do people learn more from you?
Yeah, I think that some of the apps that we really love, or the tools that we use, 2 of them, if you're starting to do video and you want some help, Mixkit is a really great one. It's mixkit.co. It's a really great one that has all kinds of sound effects and royalty-free music and stuff like that you can add into your video, and even some like GIF type things, stickers and stuff that you can put on there. The same is true for Pixabay, which is Pixabay. Pixabay also has a lot of royalty-free stock video that you can use and things like that. There's a whole other conversation on AI and what people are using video for AI, and I think that the 2 sites that we're starting to use to dabble in that, if that's something that you are interested in, would definitely be Lumen 5, LUMEN5.com. I don't know if you've seen that yet, Lindsay. It's really cool. You can put in a blog post and it will create a video for you based on your blog. It's not perfect, but you can edit it, and it's a really interesting way that that's working. And then another one that we've found success with is called Veed.io, Veed.io, and it is one where you can choose AI avatars. So if you have somebody on your team that does not want to be on video themselves, you can put in text and it will create a person for you to be the face of your videos and what you're doing. And it's scary how accurate it is.
Yeah.
And it's definitely very interesting. But those are just some of the extra stuff that we utilize. And you can always go to bowdigital.com to check out our blog and our videos and stuff like that. I'm always happy to connect. My Calendly link is on there. And this is what I love to do and what I love to brainstorm. So I'm always happy to hear about it. And if anybody else has their own tips, tricks, and apps, I'd love to build our portfolio of that. So send them my way too.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Wayne. I really appreciate you spending some time and sharing your expertise with us.
Of course. Thanks for having me, Lindsay.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks again to Wayne for chatting with us. Any of the tools or resources we talked about can be found by following the link in the episode description. If you're not already subscribed to this podcast, what are you waiting for? And if you are subscribed, consider leaving us a review. It really helps us out. If you're looking for a vendor partner that will help you scale and grow your title operation, PropLogix is here to help. Learn more about our time-saving services by visiting proplogix.com/services. That's PROPLOGIX.com/services. And until next time, happy closing.